Stop praying the way you've been taught. I'm serious. Everything you think you know about prayer might actually be keeping you from experiencing what prayer can really do. And I'm going to prove it to you in the next 40 minutes by walking you through a challenge that completely transformed not just my prayer life, but my entire existence. Stick around because what I'm about to share goes against pretty much everything you've heard about prayer before. Look, I get it. Prayer can feel like this huge, complicated thing that religious people do. You might think you need to use fancy words or pray for hours or somehow get it perfect. But here's the truth. Prayer is just talking. That's it. It's a conversation. And for 40 days, I decided to approach it in a completely different way than I ever had before. No rules, no pressure, just honest, raw, real communication. And what happened during those 40 days shocked me. It changed my relationships, my mindset, my peace levels, my decision-making, and honestly, my entire life direction. So today, I'm breaking down exactly what I did day by day, and more importantly, why it worked when nothing else had worked before. Here's what most people don't tell you about prayer. They make it sound easy. They say, just pray more, just have faith, just believe harder. But when you actually try to build a consistent prayer practice, you run into real problems. First problem, you don't know what to say. You sit down, close your eyes, and your mind goes blank. Or worse, you start rambling about random stuff and feel like you're just talking to yourself. Second problem, you don't see results. You pray for things and nothing happens. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months, and you start wondering if anyone's even listening. Third problem, life gets busy. You have good intentions. You really do. But then work happens, stress happens, exhaustion happens, and prayer becomes this thing you'll get to later. Except later never comes. Fourth problem, doubt creeps in. You start questioning everything. Is this even real? Am I doing this right? Why does it seem to work for other people but not for me? I dealt with all of these problems. For years, I'd pray sometimes, but it was inconsistent, unfocused, and honestly, I wasn't sure it mattered. I'd have these bursts of motivation where I'd pray every day for a week, then fall off completely for months. Sound familiar? And here's what really bothered me. I'd see other people talk about their prayer life like it was this amazing life-changing practice. They'd say things like, prayer transformed my life, or I can't imagine my day without prayer. And I'd think, what am I missing? Why isn't my experience like that? So I decided to do something different. I created a 40-day challenge with specific rules, not religious rules, not complicated rules, just simple guidelines that would force me to show up consistently and honestly. Let me walk you through the structure first, then I'll break down what actually happened during those 40 days. The challenge had 5 core components. Component 1, consistency over length. I committed to praying every single day for 40 days, but here's the key. It didn't have to be long. Some days it was 5 minutes, some days it was an hour. The goal wasn't duration. The goal was showing up, because here's what I learned. 5 minutes every day beats 1 hour once a week. Your brain needs repetition to build a habit. Your spirit needs consistency to build a connection. Component 2, honesty over perfection. I stopped trying to sound religious. I stopped using words I thought I was supposed to use. I talked like I talked to my best friend. If I was angry, I said I was angry. If I was confused, I said I was confused. If I was grateful, I said I was grateful. No filter, no performance, just real conversation. Component 3, listening over talking. This was the hardest part. I'd spend half my prayer time just being quiet, not thinking, not planning my day, not mentally making a grocery list, just sitting in silence and being open to whatever thoughts, feelings, or ideas came up. And let me tell you, this is where the real transformation happened. Component 4, writing over remembering. I kept a prayer journal, nothing fancy, just a regular notebook. After each prayer session, I'd write down what I prayed about, how I felt, and anything that stood out. This became so valuable because I could look back and see patterns I never would have noticed otherwise. Component 5, action over wishful thinking. If something came up during prayer that I needed to do, apologize to someone, make a change, take a specific step, I'd do it that day. Prayer wasn't just about asking for things or expressing feelings. It became a catalyst for real action in my life. Now, let me break down what actually happened during these 40 days. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, including the hard parts. Days 1 through 7 were awkward, really awkward. I felt like I was talking to the ceiling. My mind wandered constantly. I'd sit down to pray and immediately think about what I needed to do later. Or I'd remember something I forgot to do yesterday. Or I'd start planning dinner. My prayers were basically, hey, thanks for today. Please help with this thing. Okay, bye. It felt forced and weird, but I kept showing up every single day, even when it felt pointless. Days 8 through 14, something small shifted. I stopped trying so hard. I'd just sit down and start talking like I was calling a friend. Okay, so today was rough. Here's what happened. And I'd just tell the whole story. No fancy language, no trying to make it sound good. Just honest conversation. The prayers got longer naturally because I had more to say. Around day 12, I wrote in my journal, I think I'm starting to feel something. Not sure what, but something. That's all I knew at the time. Just this subtle sense that I wasn't alone anymore. Days 15 through 21 were when things got interesting. I started noticing changes in how I responded to situations. Someone cut me off in traffic, and instead of getting angry, I felt this weird calm. A problem came up at work, and instead of panicking, I felt this quiet confidence that it would work out. My anxiety levels dropped noticeably. I wrote in my journal on day 18, I'm sleeping better, I'm less reactive, I feel more grounded. This is weird, but the real breakthrough came during the listening portion. I'd sit in silence and thoughts would pop up that I knew weren't my own thoughts. Not in a scary way, in a helpful way, like suddenly understanding something I'd been confused about, or getting an idea for how to solve a problem, or feeling like I needed to reach out to someone I hadn't talked to in years. On day 19, during the quiet time, I got this strong feeling that I needed to call my brother. We hadn't talked in months because of some stupid argument. I almost ignored it. But because of my rule about taking action, I called him that afternoon. Turns out he was going through something really difficult and needed someone to talk to. That conversation repaired our relationship, and he later told me that my timing was perfect. I can't explain that except to say something guided me to make that call. Days 22 through 28 were challenging in a different way. I started confronting things I'd been avoiding. During prayer, all these uncomfortable thoughts and feelings came up. Things I was ashamed of, mistakes I'd made, people I'd hurt, ways I'd been lying to myself. This wasn't pleasant. Some days I'd finish praying and feel emotionally exhausted. But here's what I realized. This was necessary. You can't grow without facing the truth about yourself. And prayer was creating this safe space where I could be completely honest about who I was and who I wanted to become. I wrote on day 25, this is harder than I thought it would be, but I also feel lighter. Like I'm finally putting down stuff I've been carrying for too long. During this week, I apologized to 3 different people for things I'd done years ago, not because anyone was making me, but because during prayer I kept feeling like I needed to make things right. And each time I did, I felt this weight lift off my shoulders. Days 29 through 35 were the peak. This is when everything clicked. Prayer stopped being something I had to do and became something I wanted to do. I'd look forward to it. I'd plan my day around it. It became the most important part of my routine. My prayers changed too. They became less about asking for stuff and more about gratitude, more about understanding, more about alignment. I'd pray things like, help me see what I'm supposed to learn from this situation, or show me how to be better today than I was yesterday, or thank you for this challenge because I know it's making me stronger. The listening portions became powerful. I'd sit in silence for 20 or 30 minutes and feel this overwhelming sense of peace and clarity. Ideas would flow. Solutions would appear. I'd understand situations I'd been confused about. On day 32, I got clarity about a major decision I'd been struggling with for months. I was trying to decide whether to stay at my job or pursue something completely different. During the quiet time, it became crystal clear what I needed to do. Not because I heard a voice, but because I felt this deep knowing, this certainty. And when I made the decision based on that clarity, everything fell into place in ways I couldn't have planned. I wrote on day 34, I feel different, more confident, more peaceful, more purposeful. People are noticing. 3 people this week asked me what changed. Days 36 through 40 were about solidifying the practice. By this point, prayer wasn't a challenge anymore. It was just part of who I was, like breathing, like eating, like sleeping. It became natural. But something else happened during these final days. I started seeing connections I'd missed before. I looked back through my journal and saw how prayers from week 1 were answered by week 4, just not in the way I expected. I saw patterns in my growth. I saw how small shifts early on led to big changes later. On day 40, I sat down for my final prayer of the challenge, and I just felt grateful. Not because everything in my life was perfect, it wasn't, but because I felt equipped to handle whatever came my way. I felt connected to something bigger than myself. I felt purpose and direction. Let me share the biggest lessons I learned from this experience, because these are the things that actually made the difference. Lesson 1, prayer is not about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you're meant to be. I started the challenge thinking prayer was about asking for things and receiving them. But that's not what prayer is really about. Prayer is about transformation. It's about alignment. It's about growing into the person you're capable of becoming. Did I receive things during those 40 days? Yes. But the bigger gift was who I became in the process. I became more patient, more aware, more grateful, more purposeful, more at peace. That's worth more than any specific thing I could have asked for. Lesson 2, consistency beats intensity every time. It's better to pray for 5 minutes every day than for 3 hours once a month. Your brain builds neural pathways through repetition. Your spirit builds connection through consistency. Small daily actions create compound effects over time. Think about it like this. If you want to get in shape, you don't go to the gym once for 8 hours. You go for 30 minutes every day. Same principle applies to prayer. Lesson 3, honesty is more important than eloquence. God doesn't need you to sound religious. God wants to hear from the real you. Stop performing. Stop trying to use the right words. Just talk like you talk. Be honest about what you're feeling, what you're struggling with, what you're hoping for. That honesty creates real connection. Lesson 4, listening is harder than talking, but that's where the magic happens. Most people think prayer is just talking to God, but that's only half of it. The other half is listening, and that's the half most people skip. But when you create space to listen, really listen, that's when you receive guidance, clarity, wisdom, and peace. The answers you're looking for won't come while you're talking. They come in the silence. Lesson 5, prayer without action is just wishful thinking. If you pray about something and get clarity about what you need to do, then you need to do it. Prayer isn't a substitute for action. It's the catalyst for right action. It helps you see what needs to be done. Then you need to actually do it. Lesson 6, your prayer life will reflect your real life. You can't fake it. If you're disconnected from yourself, your prayers will feel disconnected. If you're dishonest with yourself, your prayers will feel dishonest. Prayer forces you to confront the truth about who you are and how you're living. That's uncomfortable sometimes, but it's necessary for growth. Lesson 7, community matters, but your personal practice is essential. You can go to church, you can pray in groups, that's great, but you also need your own individual practice. You need that one-on-one time, that personal connection, because that's where the deepest transformation happens. Lesson 8, results don't always look like you expect. I prayed for certain things during those 40 days and received different things. But when I looked back, I realized I received exactly what I needed, even if it wasn't what I asked for. Trust the process. Trust that there's wisdom at work beyond your limited perspective. Now, let me give you practical steps for starting your own 40-day prayer challenge. You don't have to do it exactly like I did, but these guidelines will help you get started. Step 1, pick your time. Choose a specific time each day when you'll pray. Morning works best for most people because your mind is fresh and you're less likely to get distracted or skip it. But if evening or afternoon works better for your schedule, do that. Just pick a time and commit to it. Step 2, pick your place. Find a quiet spot where you won't be interrupted. It could be your bedroom, your car, a park, anywhere that gives you some privacy and peace. Having a consistent place helps your brain associate that space with prayer time. Step 3, start with 5 minutes. Don't try to pray for an hour on day 1. Start small. 5 minutes is enough. As you build the habit, you can extend the time naturally. But in the beginning, focus on consistency, not duration. Step 4, use a simple structure. Here's what I recommend. Spend the first minute or two expressing gratitude. Just list things you're thankful for. This shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Then spend a couple minutes talking about what's on your mind, your struggles, your questions, your hopes, whatever. Be completely honest. Then spend the last minute or two in silence. Just sit quietly and be open to whatever comes up. Step 5, keep a journal. After each prayer session, write down the date, what you prayed about, and how you felt. Also write down any insights, ideas, or actions that came up. This will be incredibly valuable when you look back after 40 days. Step 6, don't judge yourself. Some days will feel powerful. Some days will feel like nothing. That's normal. Don't judge the experience. Just show up. The consistency is what matters, not how each individual session feels. Step 7, take action on insights. If something comes up during prayer that you need to do it that day if possible. If not that day, within that week. Don't let insights turn into forgotten thoughts. Act on them. Step 8, find an accountability partner. Tell someone you trust about your challenge. Ask them to check in with you weekly. Having someone who knows what you're doing increases your chances of completing the full 40 days. Step 9, be flexible but committed. Life happens. You might miss your usual time because of an emergency or unusual circumstance. That's okay. Pray at a different time that day. The goal is to pray every single day for 40 days, but it doesn't have to be at the exact same time every day. Be flexible with the details, but committed to the goal. Step 10, prepare for resistance. Around day 10 or 15, you'll probably hit a wall. You'll feel like skipping. You'll question if it's worth it. You'll feel like nothing's happening. This is normal. Everyone hits this point. Push through it. The breakthrough usually comes right after the resistance. Let me address some concerns you might have about doing this. Concern 1, what if I'm not religious? You don't have to be. Prayer isn't owned by any religion. It's a human practice that exists across cultures and belief systems. Think of it as meditation plus communication. Think of it as connecting with something greater than yourself, whatever that means to you. You don't need to believe a specific doctrine to benefit from prayer. Concern 2, what if I don't believe in God? That's okay too. You can approach this as a practice of mindfulness, intention setting, and self-reflection. You can think of it as accessing your higher self or your inner wisdom. The practice still works even if your framework is different. What matters is that you're creating space for quiet reflection, honest self-examination, and intentional thought. Concern 3, what if I don't know what to say? Start with I don't know what to say. Seriously. Just be honest about where you are. Say, I'm trying this thing and I feel awkward, but I'm here. That's a perfectly good prayer. As you continue showing up, the words will come more naturally. Concern 4, what if nothing happens? First, define what you mean by happens. If you're expecting lightning bolts and miracles, you might be disappointed. But if you pay attention to subtle shifts in your perspective, your peace levels, your decision-making, your relationships, you'll notice changes. They might be quiet changes, but they're real. Also, remember that transformation takes time. Give it the full 40 days before judging the results. Concern 5, what if I miss a day? Start over. I know that sounds harsh, but here's why. The challenge is about building consistency. If you allow yourself to skip days and just keep going, you're not building the habit. You're just praying sometimes. The power is in the unbroken streak. So if you miss a day, reset to day 1 and start again. This actually increases your chances of success because the stakes are real. Here's what I want you to understand about prayer and why this matters so much. We live in a noisy world, constant notifications, constant information, constant demands on our attention. Our minds are scattered. Our spirits are depleted. Our sense of purpose is fuzzy. Prayer is the antidote to all of that. It's the practice that brings you back to center, that connects you to what actually matters, that gives you clarity in the chaos. When you pray consistently, you create an anchor point in your day, a moment where everything else falls away and you connect with something deeper, something truer, something that's always been there, but that you've been too busy or distracted to notice. And here's the thing about that connection. It changes everything. It changes how you see yourself. It changes how you see other people. It changes how you see challenges. It changes how you make decisions. It changes your priorities. It changes your peace levels. You become less reactive and more responsive, less anxious and more trusting, less scattered and more focused, less selfish and more compassionate. These aren't small changes. These are fundamental shifts in how you move through the world. And they ripple out into every area of your life. Your relationships improve because you're more present and more patient. Your work improves because you're more clear and more purposeful. Your health improves because you're less stressed and more aware. Your decision-making improves because you're more connected to your intuition and your values, all from spending a few minutes each day in prayer. Now, I want to be clear about something. This isn't magic. This isn't about saying the right words and having a genie grant your wishes. This is about doing the inner work. This is about showing up for yourself consistently. This is about creating space for growth, reflection, and connection. The challenge is called a challenge for a reason. It's not always easy. It's not always comfortable, but it's worth it. I promise you, it's worth it. You might be wondering what happened after the challenge ended. Did I stop praying? Did everything go back to normal? No. The practice stuck because it wasn't a 40-day challenge anymore. It had become part of who I was. I still pray every single day over a year later, not because I have to, because I want to, because I've experienced what life feels like with a consistent prayer practice, and I never want to go back to life without it. My life didn't become perfect. I still face challenges. I still have problems. I still have bad days. But I face all of it differently now, with more peace, with more clarity, with more trust that I'm exactly where I need to be and that I'm being guided toward where I need to go next. The relationships that mattered got deeper. The relationships that were toxic naturally fell away. My career took a direction I never expected, but that feels completely right. My mental health is better than it's ever been. My sense of purpose is clear, all because I committed to 40 days of showing up consistently for prayer. So here's my challenge to you. Not my challenge, really. Your challenge to yourself. Commit to 40 days. 40 days of showing up. 40 days of honesty. 40 days of listening. 40 days of taking action on insights. 40 days of building a connection with something bigger than yourself. It doesn't matter if you've never prayed before. It doesn't matter if you've tried and given up. It doesn't matter if you're skeptical. All that matters is that you're willing to try. Start tomorrow. Pick your time. Pick your place. Show up for 5 minutes. Be honest. Sit in silence. Write it down. And do it again the next day and the day after that. When you hit resistance around day 10 or 15, remember this video. Remember that the breakthrough is coming. Keep going. When you get to day 40, you'll be a different person than you are right now. Not because 40 is a magic number, but because you'll have built a practice that transforms you from the inside out. You'll have stories to tell. You'll have insights to share. You'll have experienced things you can't explain, but that are undeniably real. And maybe, just maybe, you'll make your own video about how 40 days of prayer changed